Today we are honored to be joined in studio by a very distinguished guest, the Ambassador of Brazil to South Africa, His Excellency Benedicto Fonseca Filho. Welcome to Ubuntu Radio.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Maybe just to give a background to our listeners, the two countries, South Africa and Brazil, enjoy strong bilateral relations as symbolized by high-level visits and various agreements signed across a number of sectors since 1994. The relationship between the two diplomatic partners is also underpinned by a common desire to influence the global agenda in the 21st century in a manner that reflects the aspirations of developing countries. As I indicated, that today we will be taking a deep dive into the relationship of Brazil and South Africa, from bilateral ties to multilateral cooperation, trade, tourism, cultural diplomacy, and more. And to tell us more about this, I have in studio the Ambassador of Brazil to South Africa. As I've already welcomed you, Ambassador, let's start with the foundation. Brazil and South Africa have enjoyed cordial relations for many, many, many years. How would you describe the current state of relations between the two?
Thank you. Well, I would say that today probably we experience the best moment in our bilateral relations for many reasons. We have a strategic partnership with South Africa dating from 2010, and after 11 years that established a joint commission that for some years did not meet, but last year there was a meeting. In Brazil, we had the honor to have your former Minister Naledi Pandor participating, and this opened many avenues of cooperation. So today our bilateral relations with South Africa are thriving in many areas, not only governmental areas in the various spheres, but also the people-to-people relationship. With the resumption of direct flights in 2023. We had before some direct flights, but with the pandemics, those were suspended, and they resumed 2023. So this has been a factor that has facilitated these contacts among various sectors, business, cultural, academic, and tourism. So I'm very glad that at this moment we are experiencing a very fruitful moment of bilateral exchange. And of course, we are partners in many multilateral and global avenues. I would mention, of course, IBSA, BRICS, G20, and at the United Nations, of course, it's various specialized agencies. We have with South Africa a very close relationship in those areas. We share many similarities. We experience very similar challenges. So, and we have the same vision of the world, that the priorities should be the development, sustainable development for our peoples. And beyond that, to have a shared prosperity and to elevate the role of Global South. And we also share similarity also in regard to issues like climate change, the new energies, the digital divide, the digital technologies that we also want to use to the benefit of the Global South, not only as a factor that will deepen inequality. So in so many areas we have similarities that it would even be difficult to highlight one particular area, because Brazil and South Africa share many goals. And since President Lula has taken office back in 2023, and he has established as one of his priorities relationship with Africa, and particularly with South Africa. So it is, I'm very glad, and it has been a very grateful experience to be here at this point to oversee this process that is unfolding day by day.
Mm. Brazil has hosted and engaged with South Africa through official visits, ministerial dialogues, and other policy coordination meetings on bilateral and global issues. I've just shared with you off air that I was recently in Brazil where we attended the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting. I want you to share some of these recent high-level visits or engagements that reflect a deepening of our bilateral ties.
Yes, absolutely. As I have said, we are experiencing a very special moment. We have South Africa has hosted BRICS Summit 2023. We are hosting it this year. Last year we had the presidency of G20. South Africa has the presidency this year.
Wow.
This has been a factor, an additional factor that has allowed us to have very high-level contacts. And there is a very, very good relationship between our leaders, President Lula and President Ramaphosa. They have met many times over the last years. President Lula was here for the BRICS Summit. President Ramaphosa is coming to Brazil for the BRICS Summit. We expect President Ramaphosa also to attend or some high-level representatives COP30 for climate change we are hosting in Brazil by the end of the year, and I have no doubt President Lula will come to South Africa for the G20 summit also in November. And this, besides the very high-level meetings that have taken place on the margins of the General Assembly in New York. So this just to mention a few meetings. Our foreign minister was here for the foreign ministers meeting, G20. He's coming back for the development working group ministerial that will happen in the Kruger Park, Sukusa. And certainly he will come back later on for the summit. So just to mention a few moments that we have had very high-level exchange, and the relationship at this very high level is going forward in a very meaningful way, and this percolates to the other areas. So we, as I have said, we experience a moment of very, very important junction for both countries to work together.
Ambassador, you touched on it earlier on that South Africa and Brazil are both committed members of the Global South and often find common ground in multilateral forums like IPSA, like the UN, like BRICS, etc. How important is this multilateral cooperation to Brazil?
This is one of the main priorities of Brazil that in those groupings you have mentioned, we see as very important avenues for cooperation. First of all, of course, among the Global South, and to the extent we have developed common positions also to participate in a global dialogue, always with the sustainable development in mind, always seeking to give greater emphasis to the multilateral setting. We understand that today, as maybe it's a moment we see very clearly that some solutions can only come through multilateralism. We understand that most of the crucial issues we are facing require multilateral cooperation. And in that sense, we also are partners with South Africa in defending the reform of the governance structures, starting with the United Nations, that, especially its Security Council, but also the General Assembly, ECOSOC, that do not reflect today's realities. We understand there should be larger participation for developing countries. We support certainly that Africa will hold permanent seats at the Security Council, and I could mention so many other forms. So cooperation among its members and to increase the influence of the voice of Global South in global affairs, and works toward the reform of governance structures. So those are elements that we understand can be only pursued at the multilateral level, and we are very glad that Brazil and South Africa play in some ways a leading role among developing countries in that regard. We are at the forefront, of course, together with other partners, important partners, but we have been pushing for this, and we think this is the way to go.
As you have alluded to the fact that Brazil will be hosting the BRICS summit later on this year, what can we expect from this important event?
Yes, this will be the first time that BRICS, as enlarged at the previous summit in Russia, will meet, and we think it will be even a renewed opportunity to strengthen relationship among countries that are members of BRICS. And a very important aspect of the work within BRICS was the establishment of the new development bank that has been envisaged and has been working as an additional financial institution to focus on the needs of developing countries. So now with an enlarged membership, not only the cooperation among its members, financial cooperation, the development of tools that will enhance cooperation among its members, and of course that it will be an even stronger force in global dialogue reflecting the views of Global South.
And how do you see South Africa's role within BRICS evolving, especially with this upcoming summit?
Yes, the importance of having South Africa cannot be overstated. Now, the enlarged BRICS also encompasses Ethiopia and Egypt and African Union, but we understand that South Africa has been and will remain a very strong force in representing not only its national interest but Africa's interest as a whole. So we think it has been playing a very important role in BRICS and also, of course, in other fora, but in BRICS particularly bringing the voice of Africa, being a very positive force in all the development of BRICS. So South Africa, as I said, for Brazil is a strategic partner that we have been very happy to see our bilateral relations developing and look it forward to even deepen our relationship with South Africa.
On the other hand, South Africa is chairing G20 this year, taking over from Brazil, which is a historic moment as it is the first time happening in African land. How does Brazil view South Africa's presidency and its priorities?
Well, we fully support the priorities that have been established by South Africa. We fully adhere to those elements that are part of the priorities South Africa has established, that in a way will not only follow up on the presidencies, the preceding presidencies, Brazil, before Brazil, India, before India, Indonesia. So we think that this very important development we had in G20, that we have 4 developing countries in a row, can provide us with very important opportunity to further insert developing countries' interests in G20. And some of the priorities that have been chosen by South Africa, like critical minerals, further emphasis on the debt. So those are issues that have been part of G20, but under the South Africa presidency, we understand those issues will be further developed. And again, we'll be fully in support with South Africa. We have been working hand in hand with South Africa to ensure, to the extent that we can provide all the support. We think, as I said, it's very strategic to take forward those issues of interest from the perspective of developing countries. As I said, those issues are of interest to the whole world, but it is very important that the role and the voice of developing countries, the Global South, will be a very important part in those discussions. So the role of South Africa And the South African government has established as one of the main priorities to represent Africa as a whole, Africa's interest as a whole, take into account, as you have said, this historic opportunity of having G20 meeting in Africa for the first time. So for all these reasons, we fully support, we think it will be a very important meeting. Of course, today the geopolitical challenges are even greater than we had in Brazil for various reasons, for change of positions in some crucial partners. But we understand that some of those issues that reflect a wider and consensus view, we hope that will be taken forward and will be fully in support of this.
Ambassador, Brazil is a major emerging economy, and so is South Africa. How significant is the trade between the two countries?
Yeah, our trade has been significant in the range of $2 billion and a half dollars per year. We see a huge potential for it to be increased, of course, but the flows of commerce are there, and beyond this, we have many Brazilian companies investing in South Africa. We have South Africa companies investing in Brazil. So we understand there is a huge potential for all this to be increased in the next few years.
What is Brazil's investment portfolio in South Africa, and what are some of the main industries in Brazilian companies, that Brazilian companies have invested in this country?
Yeah, we have, as I said, many important Brazilian companies work in South Africa. I would mention Marco Polo, that is building tractors. I would mention Ambev, that has a very important position in regard to beverages. We have Tramontina, that develops many products of steel, cutlery, and so on. And we even have companies investing in solar energy in South Africa, and agribusiness. I could mention mining, many avenues of cooperation that have been pursued by Brazilian companies in South Africa. I do not have the exact figure, but I would say those are very relevant. And on the other hand, we have, as I mentioned, South African enterprises work in Brazil. For example, our main airport in São Paulo, a part of the airport is being managed by South African group. We have important companies working in the field of delivery, food delivery, and we are open to further develop, to open up Brazilian markets, to devise tools that commerce can be further enhanced. Because we understand the role of government, of course, is to play a catalyzer role, to provide the framework for cooperation to proceed, to help companies on both sides that want to invest. So we have been doing that, but I think the most important thing is that spontaneously those companies, those people-to-people relations in cultural, academic areas can flourish. And we are very happy to see that government working together with business, civil society are working together to enhance our relations.
Are there any specific sectors with potential for future growth or deepening collaboration?
Yeah, we understand that the agribusiness sector is crucial. One of the main elements in Brazilian presidency last year was the pursuit of the goal of fight against hunger and poverty. We have established the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. And recently, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we hosted a meeting of African ministers for agriculture in Brazil. That was a very fruitful meeting, because we understand that the technologies, the tools we have developed in Brazil can be of service to South Africa and to Africa as a whole, especially because of similarities of ecosystems, of and the shared need to provide not only for its population but to the world at large. So I'd say this is a very promising area for cooperation. And I say in science and technology, I headed back at the Foreign Service the Department for Science and Technology for a few years, and I had the opportunity to come to South Africa and to explore possibilities of cooperation in those areas, biotechnology, the management of parks, the new technology, the digital technologies. As you know, many important solutions have been developed in developing countries. So we understand this is a two-way cooperation in which, of course, we also have a lot to learn from the African experience. And so I would say the scope of cooperation is very large. Of course, we are both developing countries, so we have some limitations in regard to the cooperation, but there is fantastic goodwill on all parts to pursue cooperation in many areas. Well, in regard to science and technology, for example, I'd like to mention that the cooperation between Brazil and South Africa to develop a missile, air-to-air missile, is seen as one of the greatest achievements of South-South cooperation. So in a very, very high-tech industry that demonstrates the very important expertise we have in our countries in areas that sometimes are not highlighted by the overall public, but we have been pursuing. So to say that from the agribusiness, from the fight against hunger and poverty to ensure food security, but also in high-tech areas, we have many areas to explore possibilities of working together.
Brazil has successfully managed to position itself as a reliable developer or development partner for Africa in a very short time. Why is it important for Brazil to have cordial relations with the African continent?
First of all, in Brazil, we have a very clear understanding that African heritage, African roots are part of our history, of our social fabric. The African influence in Brazil is very, very clear in areas like cultural aspect, music, arts, the culinary. One thing that is important that Brazil, in Brazil, you find the second largest population of people from African origin in the whole world. We are the second largest. We have the second largest black population after Nigeria. So in Brazil, so this is a factor that leads us to. Of course, we have those historical links, heritage links, but as I said, we see that we understand that we have similar challenges, also similar potentials, and at the same time that we share a world approach and mindset that facilitates our relationship with Africa. And as I said, since President Lula took office back in 2023, he has resumed his priority that he had in his previous two presidencies, from 2002 to 2008 or 9. So we have this governmental push, we have the social people-to-people relationship that lead us to seek a stronger relationship of Africa. For example, this week we have a few missions here. We have a G20 delegation for the working group on health, but we also have a mission. Yesterday I could meet the members of the most important Brazilian gallery of art that are pursuing cooperation with South Africa. We have been students from Brazil coming to South Africa at the University of Johannesburg and vice versa. So as you see, there are government to government, but also people to people relations. And as I said, I am extremely happy that it is happening. And this demonstrates our commitment and also our interest in developing relations to Africa that will be mutually beneficial, to the mutual benefit of our countries.
Brazil's footprint in Africa has intensified dramatically in the recent years, not only in terms of trade and investment, but also in terms of development, cooperation, and political alliance building. Would you please tell us more about the strategic importance of this?
Yes, as I said, it is. I think this is important from two perspectives: to explore solutions that to address our problems jointly, take into account the solutions and the ways we have been exploring Brazil and in Africa to address some of these issues. So this in itself is an extremely important element. And the other is to develop tools and to reinforce our cooperation towards addressing worldwide problems that and be part in global discussions with a stronger view, voice, and participation. So I think those two elements are very clear in our assessment of the importance of the relationship with South Africa and Africa in general to address those two main interests: further develop cooperation among ourselves and also to provide a platform that will assist us that will be helpful in addressing global challenges.
What are the major strategic targeted sectors of Brazil's overseas foreign direct investment into Africa?
Yes, as I have mentioned, the agribusiness, agricultural and food security in general is a very clear area of interest. But beyond this, also I have mentioned in areas like renewable energy, we see a huge potential to develop this area, the green energies in general, but the solar, wind, solutions we have been exploring in Brazil that can also be service to Africa. And we have companies that can provide that kind of expertise. And to explore areas in which we can work together. For example, we have a shared interest in using our critical minerals to the benefit of our populations, not only to export raw materials, but to develop the way we can benefit, further benefit and sell more elaborate products. So, and again, we have Brazilian companies that are working that. So we see there are many areas. I would also mention infrastructure. I would also mention mining, but also in transport. For example, our main aircraft industry, Embraer, has been developing a very important cooperation with South Africa. The Airlink, for example, a large part of Airlink fleet comes from Embraer. We have also been working with South Africa, offering our aircraft we have developed for not only military but for dual use, trying to address the need and the interest of South Africa, reinforcing its capacity in that regard. For us, for example, one of the aircraft that was developed by Embraer has been very useful in cases like to provide humanitarian assistance. As you may know, last year we have unfortunately very crucial episode of floods in the south of Brazil, and this aircraft was used for this and also for issues like agriculture, of course military transport. So this is an area that I see also a lot of potential in the aircraft industry, not only for military but also for civil uses. So I mentioned some areas, but as I said, there are so many areas that we could develop in our relationship, in our bilateral relationship, in our relationship with Africa as a whole.
Brazil and South Africa both boast stunning natural beauty and vibrant cultures. What is the state of tourism between the two countries?
It has been increasing, as I said, due to many factors. One of them, the resumption of direct flights, and I would say renewed interest, to the extent that knowledge about the potential of South Africa and Brazil, the increase of knowledge of, as you said, the natural beauties, the cultural experience, this has been on the increase. I would even say that South Africa today is a fashionable place in Brazil. People think about South Africa and they wish to come. We have seen an increase, even from the perspective of the embassy. We have been providing increased assistance to Brazilians that come spontaneously to South Africa. Sometimes, as you know, in case of some authorities, we provide assistance. And we have seen many people coming here not only for business purposes, but also for tourism and private actions. We see this is a very important development, to the extent that business relations, academic, cultural relations develop. We see that this provides an increased impetus for tourism, because people who come here to work or to go to university, they will certainly, when they go back to Brazil, they provide the propaganda for this, and we see the same happening in the case of South Africa in relation to Brazil.
Talk to us about the key attractions. You indicated that you are assisting some of the Brazilians who wish to come to South Africa, not only for business, but for tourism purposes. What seems to be the attention grabber for Brazilians that are coming to South Africa?
Yes, I would mention Cape Town for all its richness, historical significance, the landscapes. Those are very important magnets for Brazil. And the parks, Kruger and other parks also attract a lot of interest from Brazilians to come and have this experience. Beyond other natural settings in South Africa, but I maybe would highlight Cape Town area, the wineries and the route you have. I had the opportunity to go to
the
Cape Town,
route,
and I was really amazed by the opportunities. I stayed there for 1 week, but I could not explore all the beauties. So this is for Brazilians that comes for South Africa, very special experience. And also, as I have said, the natural wildlife, also other cities, of course. Johannesburg has also very strong attraction to Brazilians coming here.
Any interest in township tourism, for example, Soweto tours? Because I kind of compare Soweto with the favelas in Brazil.
Yes, no, absolutely. The Apartheid Museum, for example, is also, I forgot to mention, is maybe one basic things that will also be of interest. As you know, we also experience, it was a different experience in Brazil. There was the enslavement of black people that was different from what you had here with the apartheid, but there we share similarities that we want to explore. And one thing that is not well known, that during our G20 presidency, President Lula decided to give, to enlarge the importance of civil society in all its manifestations, business, women, youth. universities, and we inaugurated one that was the what you call in Brazil the favelas, that correspond to your townships in a way.
Yeah.
And this, I would say, original group that emerged during the Brazilian presidency is also taking shape in South Africa. Of course, this is not yet institutional group within G20, but there have been efforts to bring the issues related to townships and favelas. There is even a T20 that was established, is being established in South Africa, that would be Township 20.
Oh.
And personally, I think it's very important. As I said, one of our main aspects is to explore ways to further develop socially, economically our populations. And in that context, I think the role to be played by township, by favela, is crucial, because to the extent that we are responding to those needs, that we explore tools for its elevation, culturally, personally, to provide opportunities to explore avenues for these people, for our populations coming from those areas to further develop. I think this will be of service to our overall push and discourse in regard to the need to explore ways and to devise ways globally of addressing these topics. Those are areas that are more vulnerable, that socially, economically, but that have a huge potential. You'd be surprised, for example, how in Brazil favelas have been the object of policies that seek to deviate a little bit the look that usually pervades in regard to the negative aspects of poverty, of crime, but also to look at their potentials, from the perspective of pursuing some avenues that are maybe different from the overall, but that are very relevant from the perspective of the quest for development and to exploration of some aspects that are part of our life and need also to be part of the public discourse.
Exactly, and part of your history as well. As I shared, Ambassador, I was in Brazil over a month ago. I have my perception, or I have experienced most part of Rio, trying to see the tourist attractions and so on and so on. But I want to offer you an opportunity to sell your own country. If I was to, or if one of my listeners was to consider Brazil as a tourist destination,
yes,
sell it to them.
No, absolutely. As you have mentioned, Rio de Janeiro, I come from Rio, so I have maybe a bias toward Rio. It's one of the pearls of Brazil, one city that provides very, I would say, rewarding experiences, because it is a metropolis with beaches, with so many cultural aspects, so many opportunities for to develop a better understanding of Brazil. But Brazil, you know, it's very large. We are, I think, more than 50% of South America. This is so we have many different landscapes. If you go to the northeast, to Bahia, for example, we will find very strong influence, African influence, in regard to the population, to the traditions, to the heritage. If you go to the south, you have a different landscape. It's colder. It is, I would say, more European setting, with many descendants from Italians, from Germans, all over the world. In Brazil, we have people coming from all over the world. You have in the north the Amazon, that it provides a unique experience to be in the Amazon. And it is important to say that in spite of all the aggression that the forest has suffered, we hear, for example, so many such a large extension of the forest that is being destroyed by fire, but the Amazon forest remains in its majority intact and provides a very important experience. We have in Pantanal wetlands settings. We have the Cerrado that is more like savanna. So this is to mention that Brazil provides so many opportunities, and depending on your interest, on your focus, you can have a very wide range of options, coming from the beaches in Brazil, also in the northeast, to the very important African influence in the northeast, the more European influence in the south, the Amazon. So it is a country that certainly has been developing also its infrastructure to welcome tourists from all over the world. Of course, we have Carnival in Rio and elsewhere. It's all over Brazil. So there are so many areas of interest for people to come and explore the Brazil. Thank you very much for this opportunity to sell my country.
Are there any plans to boost tourist exchanges between the two countries?
Yes. The two main governmental agencies, Embratur on the Brazilian side, I think South Africa Tourism on the side of South Africa, have been engaging in conversations, exploring possibilities for joint action. The airline companies, they also have an interest in. They have been engaged in further spreading opportunities between both countries. So again, a government on one side, private sector, and also people that come and go back to countries and can talk about the experience. So there are, I would say, also a very important moment for this to take place and to be enhanced. Last year we had more than almost 50,000 Brazilians coming for South Africa.
Wow. Do we have any visa requirements for both South Africans and Brazilians traveling in any direction?
Yes, we have an agreement with South Africa that we do not need a visa to come here, and South Africans do not need a visa to go to Brazil. This allows for a stay of 90 days in each direction, and this is, of course, one of the elements that facilitate our the flow of tourists in both directions.
Ambassador, we now going to look into people-to-people ties between the two countries. How are Brazil and South Africa encouraging connections at the grassroots level?
Yes, we have had very important experience. This week, for example, we had Brazilians that are developing Brazil, that have been involved in Brazil in a very heritage aspect, that is capoeira, that is a kind of, it's between dance and fight that was very much inspired in Africa. We have, as I said, very important academic. These are strengthening the ties among South African and Brazilian universities. We have been, from the perspective of the embassy, seen an increase in tourism, as I have said, but also in the cultural exchange as a whole. As I said, this week we have an important delegation from the main gallery of art in Brazil. We have missions from business sectors. So I think there are so many tools that have sections of our society that are that have been approaching. I mentioned previously the relation between our favelas. We have in Brazil what we call CUFA, that is a central organization that represents favelas. And I was very even amazed to see that in South Africa, this KUFA is there is a KUFA South Africa, and this is pushing, as I said, to also discuss this at the G20 level, but beyond G20, because it's important to note that the discussions that take place in G20, and it's very important the consensus that is achieved there, because in G20 you have both BRICS and G7. So to the extent you have consensus around some areas, it is very important. So there is an intent to discuss the role of the townships in this setting. And these are to mention a few examples of people-to-people relations that have been developing.
So, with regards to culture, are there any efforts that you are making to showcase your rich culture here in South Africa?
Yes, we have seen some of these supported by government, but also spontaneously coming from cultural institutions. We have been developing for example, festivals of expositions, screening of Brazilian films. We have been engaging in areas such as I mentioned, capoeira, highlighting some aspects of our culture, and I could mention that attached to tourism and this spontaneous flow, many avenues are explored even outside the knowledge of our government and our influence. And I think this is very important because as government, as I said, we try to foster, to provide the catalyzing, to put people in contact, but to the extent that these contacts are reinforced, they gain an autonomous nature, and they provide for a more permanent relationship. We have seen this developing in South Africa, and in regard to the cultural aspect, this is very clear. Next week we'll have here in South Africa, and they will we will hold at Wits University important meeting of one of the main Brazilian writers and philosophers at the moment. She has a very strong influence and knowledge about the black culture in Brazil, and the need to further develop the black influence in Brazil. She will be here, and she will be launching a book in South Africa. This will be in Africa as a whole, a very important meeting that will take place here. So and in Brazil there is a growing interest in South African music, South Africa cultural elements. One of the things we see is that, and this is a very important development, that the mutual knowledge has been increasing. If we go back to 2 or 3 decades ago, there was minimal knowledge and understanding about what South Africa and South Africa relevance to the world and the natural beauties, the people, vibrancy. So now there has been a greater knowledge and interest to know about, and we see the same thing happening in the other way, in the reverse way. So these are, to my view, the demonstration that the cultural aspect, that is one of the main aspects in relation to this people-to-people exchange, has been flourishing, and we have been stimulating this, but beyond what government is doing, the spontaneous links have been strengthened.
One thing that I'm certain of is that Brazilians and South Africans take pride in their music, football, and cuisine. What other commonalities, in your observation, do we have as people?
Yes. So many commonalities. I would maybe just go back to football. That is a passion in Brazil and also here. We are very glad and honored to see that, for example, one of your teams, Mamelodi Sundowns, they are called the Brazilians.
Yes.
And they use our national colors in their shirts, in their apparel. So it demonstrates very wide interest in Brazil. As you said, also music. There's a very strong influence and interest in approaching the experiences in the area of food, culinary. But I also mention aspects like the arts in general, cinema, also the exploration of opportunities regard even in areas like dance. I was also very happy to know that Johannesburg Ballet has some Brazilian dancers. And so we see so many aspects that have been developing in Brazil. Sometimes at the embassy we are surprised to know some people that are here developing activities that were not to our knowledge, and I think this is very good. That demonstrates that we are in the right track in also at the political level approaching our nations.
This is what I do with every ambassador that comes to visit us. I would like our listeners to get to know you better. Maybe let's just start by you telling us about your diplomatic journey. Share with us some personal reflections, what inspired your career, and some of your career highlights.
Thank you. Well, as I said, I was born in Rio and I moved to Brasilia at a very young age. My father was a servant from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was not a diplomat, but he was a servant, and having traveled with him to abroad, we lived in Prague. At the time it was a single country, Czechoslovakia, and there I think I developed the taste for diplomacy. When I got back to Brazil, I was at university, and I chose to do international relations, already aiming to the diplomatic career. And back in '85, so 40 years ago, I entered Rio Branco, and of course with all the challenges and the setting at the moment, it was a different moment from now, because now there is also an interest, and we have developed tools to make diplomacy more representative. Today we have, back to 10 years ago, we have, for example, quotas for black people, for people with disabilities, and we have today among the diplomacy membership people coming from all over Brazil. Before it was almost concentrated in Rio, São Paulo, but today we have people coming from all over Brazil, and for, as I said, an increased role for women, for people from minorities, and I think this is very good. So in my career, I was posted in Buenos Aires. After that, I went to Israel. I also served at our mission, permanent mission at the United Nations. And after being ascended to ambassador, I had the opportunity to go to Boston as consul general, and in Pretoria here as ambassador. I was the first African Brazilian career diplomat to be elevated to the rank of ambassador. So it's a great honor for me. We had previously some ambassadors, but that did not go through all the stages, starting from our diplomatic academy. It was back in 2010, and it was, I had this honor, which I value, and to be the first diplomat of African origin in Brazil. And we must not forget that Brazil was discovered. Discovered is maybe not the best way. The Europeans arrived in Brazil because Brazil was already populated by indigenous populations.
Yes.
Back in 1500. So more than 500 years ago, we had our independence back in 1822. So this is more than 200 years ago. But then today, for the first time, we had a black diplomat. So I think this reflects a new Brazil. I'm very honored to be part of this history. And I'm very honored to be here in South Africa. This has been for me an extraordinary experience. I feel it's a privilege to be here representing my country with this background and to be able to better understand our heritage, our roots. So this is, in a nutshell, maybe my diplomatic experience that differs maybe from other colleagues. But I think the most important thing is that we share our love for our country, our pride to be representing Brazil. And of course, my ambition is to not only be remembered as the first black diplomat, but as a diplomat that has served Brazil in a way that will enrich our world experience and to develop relations with countries at large, especially countries from the global south.
Talk to me more about your experience here in South Africa. What would you say are the key highlights? What did you get to do here on a professional and on a personal level? And what would you remember South Africa for after you have done your tenure?
Yes, well, I've been here for 2 years, and I know that at the end of my posting here, those experiences will be even deeper. But for me, it has been a very personally enriching experience. At the embassy, we have very intense relations in all areas, so this occupies most of my time. But I think one thing that strikes me in South Africa today is how we can see history unfolding in a way, in a very particular way. For example, we have the opportunity to, and I think this is a privilege to live and to work with people that participated in the struggle, in the transition between apartheid and democracy. Your president himself was one of the main negotiators in this process. The other day we met Hofmeyr, that was the negotiator on the Afrikaner side. And beyond that, I have had the opportunity to be in meetings where we had President Mbeki speaking, and so many other key participants. So I think this is maybe a very unique experience to know, to meet people, and to be in a country that all this is still unfolding, the challenges, the issues that were present at the transition that in some way are still developing. And this besides the natural beauties. I have been with my family in Cape Town. As I said, that was an extraordinary experience. I have not yet gone to Kruger. I want to go there. But I was in Durban, Johannesburg, of course, many times. I visited the Apartheid Museum. That was an extraordinary experience. So I'm certain I will take from South Africa very good memories. Besides the opportunity to live and to have opportunities to interact with people from all walks of life, I personally have an interest, a personal interest also, in meeting with people, in discussing issues, to understand the soul, the depths of South Africa. So I think all of this is providing an extraordinary life experience that, of course, I'll take this anywhere I go.
And as we conclude our conversation, Ambassador, which has been very enlightening, is there any message that you would like to share with our listeners, specifically South Africans and Brazilians who are living here?
Yes. We have in South Africa, our community is not large. We have around 2,300 Brazilians, which of course is relevant, but is not a very wide population. So I will also address my compatriots in saying that you can rely on the embassy for anything of your interest. We are here to help Brazilians here from the consular aspect, but also to the extent we can in regard to their business needs, their cultural needs. And to the wider South African people, I would say that explore Brazil, explore the opportunities for cooperation in trade, culturally, academically. You may know that in Brazil we have a renewed interest in strengthening ties with South Africa. We are looking for opportunities for this, and my personal belief is that we are stronger working together. On a bilateral aspect, in the multilateral area, we are stronger when we work together. So my main message would be this, to stimulate that those relations that have been taking place will further be enhanced. And you may know that we are open to cooperation, to discussion, to foster people-to-people relations. So Brazil is, of course, in a way still to be discovered by a wider South African population, but I'd like to leave this message. There are many commonalities. There are solutions that have been developed here that will be important for Brazil and vice versa. So, independent of your area of work, study, get to know Brazil more, and be sure that we will be more than happy to explore possibilities and to provide support for this to take place.
Ambassador Benedicto Fonseca Filho of Brazil, thank you so much. And as Ubuntu Radio, we really extend our sincere gratitude for your office to have allowed you to come through to share these insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is a pleasure for me, and I will always be ready to come and discuss with you. This has been a very pleasant opportunity, and I look forward to have other opportunities as well.
Much pleasure.